Hello and welcome to The Olive Tree with me, Julia Fisher. Now, if you're interested in finding out what God is doing in Israel and the West Bank through the lives of believers who live there, then this program is for you. My guest today lives in Tiberias on the shores of the Sea of Galilee in northern Israel, where he and his wife are pastors of a Messianic congregation called the Morning Star Fellowship. He is Claude Ezagouri. Claude, welcome to the program. It's good to talk to you again.
Well, good to see you again.
And there you are in Tiberias. Here I am in South Wales in the UK, and we're able to communicate and make a program in this way. I guess you've had some rough weather. You've had some snow, I hear, in Israel.
Yes, we were surprised with a rough winter. It was really a surprise to everyone here because in Tiberias generally we don't have this kind of temperature, and people don't really dress like in Sweden.
No, I see you've
So
got a jumper on, so I realize it must be cold.
yeah, yes, it is cold. Yes, it's a little bit better now, but we've had 1 week with very low temperature for Tiberias. It was in the morning. It was 4 degrees, which is really low. But
You're not used to that, are you?
no, and so a lot of people got sick, and I mean, you don't know if it's corona or because of the cold or flu, but a lot of people got sick
Oh
all
dear.
over the city.
There we are.
But
Well, we're going to take your story back and tell your story, because you're a pastor in Tiberias today, but you were actually born in Algeria. Tell me about your family.
yes, my background is from Jewish. I would say traditional Jewish Sephardic Jew. Um, in Algeria, we were part of the Jewish community in Algeria, and in 1962, when Algeria became independent, then all of the French-speaking, the French who were living there, we had to practically flee and go to France. So then we spent about 13 years in France, and in 1975, I and my wife Michelle made Aliyah, and we were far from imagining that about 10 years after that, we would receive Jesus in our heart. I mean, I made the first step first, and my wife about 2 years after that. So we had 2 difficult years because she didn't agree, and she was still in Judaism. But thank God, after prayers, and the Lord made a change in her heart too, and then He practically rescued our marriage because we were close to divorce.
As you say, you had quite a rocky time because you were very heavily into meditation, transcendental meditation. You were living on a kibbutz, I believe, at first, weren't you?
Yes, yes, I was in a spiritual quest. You know, I had this thing in my head that I had to know the truth. Now I was still I still respected the Bible and Jewish tradition, but I decided to seek for truth in the Eastern religion, and so I went through all kinds of New Age and transcendental meditation and so on. And at some point, there was because I was taking a meditation course, um, and there was an exercise that I couldn't do, and thank God for this because I was starting to get some quote powers that were from the occult, and so when I couldn't do this exercise, I stopped, and right after that, my wife bought me a book that is called the Art of Meditation, and I was touched by Jesus, by the verses of the because this book was about meditation, about the verses of the Bible. I didn't know that, but I discovered it when I opened the book, which was a big surprise to me. But then when I came to the verses of the gospel, I was really touched in my heart, and I had a problem because my heart was touched, but my head was still opposing what my heart was feeling. My head was saying you know what my mother used to teach us, that Jesus is not for the Jews, and all this narrative. Uh, so I left the book, and I was in this dilemma, but I didn't know what to do with it. And the Lord knew it, because within a few weeks, I overheard, to make a long story short, I overheard a radio station that I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know that it was a Christian station from South Lebanon at that time. And I heard this man preaching about Jesus in the book of Isaiah, and so I got interested, but I was very suspicious. I thought this cannot be, because otherwise the rabbis would have told us. And so I was checking the verses with my the an old testament that I was given, that I had been given by a rabbi, to check the verses, and I saw that everything was there, and that's how I received the Lord alone. And for 2 years, I just heard listen to the radio station every evening to get fed spiritually, because I didn't know that there were other fellowships in the land at that time. I was in that kibbutz in a remote place, and until a Christian volunteer who was in the kibbutz working with my wife, uh, invited her for a cup of coffee, and I was in the other room, and they were talking, and this volunteer said to my wife, I'm a born again Christian. My wife didn't understand what born again Christian meant. So she said, "Oh, you're probably like my husband." And when I heard that, I came, and I said, "Oh, you're a born again Christian. I'm not a Christian. I'm a Jew, and I believe in Jesus, and I'm the only one in Israel." So she said, "No, no, no, you're not the only one. I can help you to meet others." And so that's how I got in touch with some local believers, and started to attend fellowship. I mean, at the beginning, they were very suspicious toward me, because they thought that I was one of these anti-missionary spies. But anyway, after a while, they got convinced that I was a true believer, and I started to fellowship, and then we had this for 2 years. We had this problem at home, with Michelle, who was opposed to my faith, and thank God the Lord intervened.
How long did you stay in the kibbutz after that, Claude?
So I received the Lord in 1983, and we left in 1989. What happened is that during the the first part of 1989, sorry, um, the Lord would wake me up during the night, and He would tell me that it's time to leave the kibbutz, and I had to ask for more confirmation, because I was terrified. Because leaving the kibbutz means start all over again. You lose everything, and you start from zero. And the Lord confirmed it to me 5 times, every time telling me roughly what he wanted from me. I mean, what I would do, but he didn't tell me anything about ministry. He just spoke to me about, that he would provide, that he would bless me, and so I made the first step. I went to work in Tiberias and came back home every evening, and then Michelle joined me, and it's only well, I guess uh, almost a year after that, or less than a year after that, that the Lord really spoke to me. It was one evening I was in prayer, and the Holy Spirit was on me, and I found myself on the ground laughing. I didn't know what was happening to me, and the Lord said to me, "Now I want you to start a fellowship with the Russian Jews." At the time, there was a big wave coming from the former USSR, and again, I was terrified, and I said, "Lord, I don't have a clue how to do this, and you will have to step and show me, and for 1 week, I physically felt his hand on my back. I remember the first days I would turn back because I saw that somebody was pushing me, and the Lord said to me, "I'm behind you. You start this fellowship," and so I just started to evangelize. We started to evangelize, and people started to receive the Lord. I mean, uh, the Russians came and they were open to the gospel, and I would take my Bible and open it and start reading. I didn't know how to evangelize, and they some of them started to weep and receive the Lord, and very very shortly we found ourselves with a full house. We had about 30 people in our house. We started the meetings. People were on the floor. The Holy Spirit was there. I mean, it was really a tremendous thought, and the Lord did everything at that time. And of course, I learned by making a lot of mistakes because again, I didn't have a clue how to start a fellowship, how to develop a fellowship.
Well, that
But
was
then,
some years. That was some years ago, Claude, and a lot has happened in that time. And we'll come on and hear more about that in the next program. But meanwhile, thank you for joining us today, Claude Ezagouri. The Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund is a Christian charity based in the UK that supports the needs of both Jewish believers and Arab or Palestinian Christians living in Israel and the wider Middle East. If you'd like to know more about our work and receive our free bi-monthly newsletter, please visit our website, olivetreefund.org. Meanwhile, join me at the same time next week for another story from the Olive Tree. Until then, goodbye.